Tower defense games are boring, especially ones on Roblox. I used to be a huge fan of the tower defense genre, you could probably tell by my older uploads, but eventually I just found it unfun. The combinations of towers to use just got smaller and smaller, and the game was just throw the same thing, making the game have very little variety and replayability. Except, I quote-unquote downgraded to an older tower defense game that everyone had nostalgia for, except for me. And that's when I found what I needed in a tower defense game. Yep, from my two more recent uploads, it's Tower Battles. I heard you. Isn't Tower Battles basically the exact same as other tower defense games? Yes. For survival game mode. I don't understand how people play Tower Battles just for survival. The main selling point for Tower Battles is its astounding PvP mode. The PvP game mode is very simple. You place towers to defend like any other tower defense games, but you can also send zombies to the opponent's side. This is what spices up PvP as it becomes a factory for a never-ending stream of balanced surprises. Now, you must consider the actions of the improbabilities, also known as player randomness. Like, you have to prepare for every scenario at the wave or future waves. They could defend, farm, send, or use anarchists, and so on to ensure they don't lose or to ensure you won't win. There are some scenarios where Wave 0 anarchist is utilized to make the opponent spend extra on defense rather than farm, making you able to catch up. Or there are scenarios where it's Wave 19 and you either send first to guarantee a chance at survival, or they didn't send at all, or have a good loadout prepared to defend it all. And even if they do send boss 2s on Wave 19, there are multiple outcomes on how to counter it, such as actually defeating it all or stalling your death so the opponent dies first if you send back. There are a lot of strategies, and those examples were just a window of what could happen in a PvP match. Like, did you guys know that Tower Battles has official tournaments? The reward is usually the Huntsman Tower if you win, and it's a good tower to flex with. Strategies are still being developed to this day, even though the game hasn't received a balance change in 4 years at this point. For example, it started with Golden Scout Plasma, then moved into Threads, and currently Golden Gunner. Also, the developer Planet Earth, which I'll refer to him as Planet, understands how to implement a tower while keeping it unique and fresh. I remember I saw an old screenshot of Planet wanting to add these towers to the game. Now, it's either he was lazy or he understands that he should take his time on actually thinking about how to approach adding a specific tower without bloating the game. This approach made it so the chances of another tower becoming useless because of a better version that exists are reduced. Stuff like this is why Tower Battles has such a loyal fan base to push the game to its limits, and even to the point where it's helping other tower defense games to fix their problems. All because the PvP mode has an insane amount of variation and possibilities on what can be achieved in a single round, making it less repetitive. The tower balancing, whether intentional or not, was implemented pretty well because it doesn't completely cross out beginners from being able to play. For example, a tower that you can quite literally purchase as soon as you start the game, Fragger, is still viable as an early game tower option as it's quite cost efficient. It may not be used in metas, but it's great for beginners who need an early game tower, or if you want to have fun with another unique tower mechanic. After some PvP wins, you can unlock Shotgunner, which is currently the best early game tower in terms of cost efficiency. 2 Shotgunners for a total of $600 can defend until Wave 8, where other towers will cost slightly more, but that sounds way too overpowered, doesn't it? Which is why it's not actually used in recent metas because it does have its flaws, like every good tower balancing should have. Eventually, Shotgunner does fall off and other early game towers gets to shine, such as Golden Scout or Enforcer. So here's the trade-off, either get a huge income starting with Shotgunner, or use another early game tower that won't make as much as Shotgunner, but is at least usable in the later waves. That was just one tower alone. Now imagine other combinations that you can play around with. To those who do play Tower Battles, how many of you guys tried Hollow Boomer as your early game tower? It may not be the best, but it works if you want to have a random variation. Either way, tournaments do restrict metas, so if you do plan to get Husband, might as well play with every early game tower. The tower balancing, despite seeming very simple with simple mechanics, does have very deep techniques on how it can be utilized that I don't have time to talk about, and doesn't completely neglect beginner towers from being used. PvP is meant to be a game mode where you must kill or get killed. No one was meant to triumph PvP like in survival. The game proves this on 22nd July 2020 when Endbringers are introduced and spawned infinitely until one team dies, making PvP no longer triumphable. But The speculation that it spawned infinitely turned out to be false. Sometime in October 2025, a group of players found out that eventually the Endbringers stopped spawning, and this was revolutionary. If they could just exert more firepower or optimize other strategies, maybe they could defeat all the Endbringers. Around December 2025, the group finally, legitimately, beat all the Endbringers, and we get to see the triumph screen in PvP mode, which we haven't seen since before they added the Endbringers back in 2020. Personally, I wasn't there when both events happened, so I highly recommend you watch the video on screen right now, linked in the description, for a better overview of this accomplishment. This just shows that, yet again, such a simple mechanic in the game to stop players from triumphing together in PvP can be beaten through intensive work and utilizing deeper mechanics. To make Railgunner reach its DPS potential, exceeding higher than all 4 players placing down Golden Commando, they had to use a glitch to stack them, clumping them all into one small spot so more could be placed and less commanders used. Insane Z micromanaging to exert a lot of DPS within a short amount of time, just anything to push the game to its absolute limits. This even involves server manipulation to join less laggy servers so the towers would suffer less from lag. I find this really interesting because it's not the game purposely adding a hard mechanic or making a hard mode that's just annoying and unfun but also really bland since only one strategy works. It's just the developers not wanting players to play its survival mode counterpart in the game mode about killing each other. Obviously, Tower Battles is nowhere near perfect as it still has its flaws. After all, the point of criticism is to improve the game because you love it and want it to be perfect. Firstly, the game is not beginner friendly. The PvP game mode heavily relies on the farm tower as the economy, and while the PvP game mode excellently revolves around that, it is still a tower that you must grind for. And without farm, it's basically a guarantee lost every PvP match. A popular suggested way I see to fix that is reworking how PvP works entirely. Although, if it's not broken, then don't fix it. The current PvP system is what made me keep playing Tower Battles. I do have a suggestion to help with beginners and just a more balanced PvP mechanic is having a new game mode that gives a random loadout and mirrored. So anyone can join that game mode, farm is guaranteed, and beginners get to try out other towers for that one round. This also makes it so both good players won't just dominate new players with objectively better loadouts. Currently in PvP mode, there will be metas and unfortunately hard to stop, although can be minimized. Some towers would just be better, and having constant balance change will never solve it. The only real solution for this, other than TDS's tower banning feature, is what I suggested earlier with a new PvP game mode where both team gets the same loadout, farm always included. There are some towers in the game that's just straight up useless. For example, here's a list that are just bad and what I would change to make it viable or unique while keeping it simple. Pause to read. And there are 2 towers which I just think need an overall nerf. Plasma Trooper, despite motor being better in 2v2s and more, still needs a slight nerf with level 3 and level 4 as they do way too much damage for its price. Like, in my boss 1 guide video, placing a few level 3 Plasma Troopers is just enough to kill one boss 1, and if it's enough to kill one boss 1, then it can defend an infinite horde of boss 1s. Enforcer, on the other hand, originally, I liked how it's only good if you're skillful, but the problem arises in what if everyone is equally well skilled? It's just a great tower overall. I think level 2 specifically needs an overall nerf because the cost efficiency is just insane. Finally, many people's critique to not continue with Tower Battles is the lack of update it receives. Now, consistent updates to make a game good is just not a good idea in general. If the game requires consistent updates to keep the player engaged, maybe the game itself isn't fun. With Tower Battles case, yes, updates will definitely be great because there are flaws that needs to be fixed, and just some new permanent content like the mirror PvP mode I suggested. Currently, Tower Battles has good replayability with its PvP mode, which is also why I continue to replay Tower Battles. Another frequent game I play on Roblox is Prison Life, which, after some updates to minimize exploiters and balance changes, it's still a game I enjoy playing. These are the type of updates that would be great for Tower Battles, not just more grind or random bloat, just updates to continue to improve on its current game core mechanics. Tower Battles has its flaws just like any other video game in general. While it may not be beginner friendly or fully balanced, or its lack of updates, it still strives to keep loyal players because of the player's own autonomy to do anything instead of just sticking to the meta. Just like finding methods to grind quickly for better fun towers, find random niches or weaknesses of towers to counter popular perception, and just continue to hope that the game will update. I predict Christmas 2026, if not Christmas 2027, and so on. Overall, Tower Battles is such a fun game that changed my perspective on the tower defense genre as a whole. The game is great if it completely destroys your expectation within that genre, especially Tower Battles being contrary to popular belief on what makes a good tower defense game. It's actually just a good strategy game in general with how much you can do and learn, like metas are still being discovered to this day for such a simple game. That's my little review of Tower Battles. Comment below your thoughts and why you like or dislike Tower Battles, and I hope you give Tower Battles a deeper try.
Tower Man, no updates in his breath, so we wait to watch your kitty game.